You are now listening to The Unwavering, the movement dedicated to educating and empowering the brave men and women who have or are still serving our great nation. Before we get started and go ahead and talk about financial stability and setting yourself up for success in the long term, I want to go ahead and introduce the cast. We have a special member today, so if we can just go around, everyone introduce yourself real quick.
Hey, I'm Dan, veteran in the United States Navy Submarine Force. Left about 2 years ago as an E5.
Sub Force still gets me, but I'm Gerard Garcia. I was in the U.S. Air Force for right about 8 years. Worked on C-17s and C-5s for majority of my career.
And I'm Ryan. I'm actually a good friend of Gerard. I was an electrician on C-17s, and I'm 13 years active now, still going.
Yeah, hey, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. We're pretty excited to have you here just because having you here gives us a new perspective on this. All of us have been out for well over a year, and just having someone who's still in and can still speak to some of the experiences and what they're doing to set themselves up for the future is huge. So thank you for coming out here to talk to us. I think the hardest part for me making the transition, or one of the hardest things, was making sure that I was going to have financial stability. I was lucky because I was getting out at the perfect time. I got out. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have kids. So there was a lot less stress on me to get out. I knew that, worst case scenario, I can get out, move back to California. I had a very tight system. I had friends, family that could help me out if I was in a pinch. But I think getting out and having some sort of plan and learning how to live either within or well under my means was huge for me. And I don't know if there's, things that made you guys successful or helped you out money-wise, but I think it's a good topic to go ahead and get into and share with the listeners.
Yeah, so when I was getting out, I had just come off a deployment. I had quite a bit of money saved up, and so I felt pretty good about it. And I'm from Connecticut, but I flew to California. That's where the Navy paid to fly me. I was pumped about that. And I ended up on my friend's coworker's couch for about a month.
How'd you get the military to fly you over there? Was it your home of record or?
No, if your home of record is further, they'll fly you to pretty much wherever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I ended up just sleeping on this guy's couch, or actually a blow-up mattress, trying to figure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to move somewhere a little bit warmer, a little bit nicer than Connecticut. So I was sitting on a pile of cash, and I had the great idea to ride a bicycle to San Francisco from Los Angeles. If you're not familiar, that's the wrong way to do it. You're supposed to ride down, like south.
Like downhill?
Yeah. So I was just like
that
battling.
Sounds painful.
Yeah, I battled the wind the entire way.
Wait, so you actually made it?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Well, I mean, I was originally planning to ride to Connecticut, so made it is like, I made it to San Francisco. But no, I got to, Monterey area, and I was like, I'm going to buy a VW camper van, and I'm just going to travel the country and live in that. And the military bank, not going to mention any names here, no sponsorship. I looked them up, and there's none in San Francisco, which is where I was headed. And so I had to go to one at like the Navy War College in Monterey. I ended up taking like 15 grand out and just putting it in my backpack and riding for a couple days to like San Francisco through San Jose. Like there's some not great places.
Some shady spots
where you're riding around with 15 grand on me.
For everyone listening, we're definitely not advocating that. That's probably one of the craziest stories I've heard. So please do not pull out a huge wad of cash and just ride a bike with no personal security, no bodyguards.
You know what, Kevin? It worked for me. It worked.
I'm glad it did. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, so I rode the rest of the way to San Francisco and then found a VW van and just kind of took off for a while. Lived off the rest of my money I made on deployment for about a year, a little bit more.
Was it well spent?
Oh, yeah, great. And then decided I probably should get a job. I didn't really need to, but I was kind of bored.
So in all seriousness, though, do you think like getting out, that was kind of your plan? Like, okay, I've worked for, 5 years. I kind of want to take a break. I want to travel the country. I want to explore new things. That was kind of your mindset going into it?
Definitely. Yeah, because, being on a submarine, I was trapped underwater for a couple of years for the most part, and I just needed an opportunity to live a little bit. So I knew getting out, I had this pile of cash that I was just going to enjoy for about a year. So that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I shouldn't say that I envy that, but I think that that's just an amazing opportunity to take that and just be like, I need some open air.
Yeah, looking back at it, it was a great experience to be able to go and do that and actually have all those memories. But I think one of the key things that I ended up doing was getting the job at the the time I did because I had been on the road for, I think, about 9 months by the time I started working again. Like I said, I had cash to continue for another couple months, but I wanted to take that time and make sure I wasn't just going down to my last dollar, you know, because then it would be panic time.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, so I ended up getting my job before I ran out of money, which I think is a really smart thing that I did, you know. Could have been bad otherwise, back on my buddy's couch.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is going into things, whether you want to get out, take a vacation, explore, do different things, that's awesome. Like, go ahead and do that. You've definitely, you know, worked hard for X amount of years, take that time to kind of be liberated. But like you said, there comes a certain point where it's like, okay, now I'm tapping into my reserve. That's what you don't want to do. Make sure that you have some funds in place where you can, you know, mess around, have fun, but also have your reserves that it's like, okay, these are for an emergency only, and don't ever put yourself into a situation purposely where you're going to have to tap into those funds. And that's really what I think is going to make a huge difference for a lot of you guys getting out, is making sure that you have some sort of cushion to back you up. Don't always rely on, you know, friends and family, because they may not be there. They may be going through hardships of their own that they can't help you out during those times. So make sure that you're doing everything in your power to be independent and successful on your own.
Yeah, you have to have that buffer there. Set yourself up for success and know where that mark of failure is and make sure you stay away from it.
Yeah. If you're getting anywhere close to that, then that's scary. I don't know if you guys have. I would assume that most people have gotten to that position where it's just like, yeah. So I'm kind of, I like your story because you talk about how you were willing to allocate all of those funds towards relaxing, pretty much, like just getting a new experience, going on a bus ride, you know, around the country or wherever you went.
Well, I was driving the van. I wasn't in a Greyhound or anything. That'd be weird.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I do like greyhounds. I'm a fan.
The dogs?
Yes.
You like dog races?
Yep. I usually bet on the ponies, but sometimes, you know, I'll go.
I want to go to the horse races. That looks like a lot of fun.
Del Mar.
That's a
Opening
good place
season is when you want to go.
to spend your money from deployment. The horse track.
To lose your money?
Well, if you want to consider losing, I mean, I also
You're
consider
paying
that
for
experience.
entertainment. Yeah, it's entertainment. It's like the craps table. I consider that an investment in entertainment. Even if I break even or if I lose money, it's worth it to me.
I don't want to go too far off tangent, but you actually can write off a certain amount of money that you utilize at the casino. Fun fact, Google it.
Absolutely. You got to educate yourself on those type of things because it helps out at the end of the year.
So
anyway, my whole thing is being able to do stuff like that. Invest in fun, for me, it's investing in not only keeping my sanity, because I feel like I work fairly hard. I spend a lot of time on the road. I spend a lot of time at work, and I've got my twins at home. They're almost 3. I've got my wife at home, and being able to take care of like your mental health in a way where you have hobbies, you have different stuff that you can get into. I'm willing to invest in those type of things. And I've kind of joked about it, but at the same time, I do consider myself a maximalist. If you talk to friends of mine like Ryan, he was like, "What are you doing, man? Like you've got a trailer, you know, I've got my toy hauler, I've got my quads. I don't buy anything new. I'll tell you that right now. The toy hauler is the only thing that I've really bought new."
He has a giant truck right now that probably eats gas like no other, and he commutes like
He ran
2
over
It
hours
also,
through
I was
traffic.
going to say, it also eats other cars.
Yeah,
So
like today.
I won't confirm or deny that. So I consider myself a maximalist. I really do. I invest in having good times. So when Ryan told me that he was going to come and stop by, I was like, let's go out to the desert. We're going to go camping. And I love those experiences. I live for those experiences, and I really work hard to be able to afford those experiences. Now, I do have a buffer. I'll always have money in investments. I'll always have money in savings, but I don't focus on that quite as hard as some other individuals may, like yourself, Kevin. You make it known that you want to live like well under your means, and you're willing to not suffer, but you're willing to sacrifice certain luxuries to satisfy that. Whereas me, most of the time I'm making the decision to not sacrifice those things. You know, I rather have, and it changes too. It changes because I've got a family. I want to make sure that they're nice and comfortable and happy, and I'm willing to invest in that. To me, it truly is an investment because I live by the idea that there are things that could happen at any given time, and I don't want to have a lot of regrets.
No, and I think it comes down to perspective and what you value, right? You have a family, you have little girls at home, you have a wife, so you investing that money and taking them on a family vacation, those are memories you're not going to be able to get back. Those are things you definitely want to spend money on. That's
right.
Money well invested, in my opinion. Yeah, you're not investing in, you know, stocks or a house or, you know, other things, but those are things that...
But I do have this.
That's really, that's where I draw the line too. Like what you said, experiences. I'm always willing to throw down money if it's going to be an awesome experience. Like I just spent $800 on concert tickets last week, just because I
seen,
knew,
like, Beyonce
I knew
or
how.
something?
Yeah, are you going backstage? Jeez, bro, that's serious. Okay.
No, it wasn't
He had
Beyonce.
some killer seats, man. He showed me some videos, and it was awesome.
Who is
It
this?
was amazing. It was a Tool concert.
Nice. Okay.
And you fly
but-
out there for $800 or something?
Well, I have family back there too. So
Got it.
It was
But that was the price of the tickets, right? Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, but see, you,
was like
you
row two,
planned
where,
ahead
like,
for this. It's not
we're-
like you're down to your last paycheck and you're like,
Exactly.
oh man, this is my last paycheck. Do I save it and buy food, or do I spend $800 and go to a concert? You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's the whole point. Is like, hey, go tour the country, go take your family on vacation, invest, do whatever it is that brings you happiness and fulfillment, and is going to help you in the future. But like, yeah, you deserve to live a little. Just have a plan. That's the biggest thing. Have a solid game plan. And not everyone's going to be like me, and try and like live frugal. And I understand that. I'm just trying to speak to my experiences and why it is that I choose to live the way I do or make the decisions that I do. So
By the way, I've made some really bad investments like jet skis. I don't think anybody should ever own jet skis. You can work on boats. Some people are like that, boats and jet skis. You don't want to own those things, but boats, I can work on those. When it comes to jet skis, they're so tight inside there, you can't work on them, and you just spend money constantly. I blew one of mine up, and then I'm just going to give away the other one.
I would like a jet ski.
You want one?
Yeah.
When I say give it away, I mean like dirt cheap. I'm going to go for dirt cheap first, and then if not, I'm
We'll
just going
discuss
to have
this
it.
after.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Ryan, what about you? How do you, you said you go to concerts and you do like to get out there and do things, but as far as like investments or...
Well, I don't just buy jet skis. I really
Probably a good
avoid
choice.
I avoid buying material goods for the most part.
You avoid bad investments?
Yeah.
I wish I would have done that.
I've always tried to save at least half of my income. I've been really successful doing that.
Damn.
I wish I could do that, man.
So I've always set myself up, no matter what I'm doing, all my expenses, internet, all of my bills, everything. I mean, I go out to eat. I actually blow quite a bit of money, and I still somehow manage to save roughly half. So
It's because you budget. I think that's the biggest thing. Some people, still to this day, I know individuals that just have no concept of budget. They'll sit there and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know what I have in the bank," or at the very least, like, "I don't know if I can cover this right now." That to me is just insane. My heart would explode.
Like, I don't have a budget. I know how much I earn and like how much I'm like roughly saving, but I don't have it written down on a piece of paper.
Oh, I don't do that either.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine.
You gotta be
I don't want to
insane to do
expend
that.
the mental effort to try to track every dollar that I have.
Yeah.
But you know that you're
I don't
never
wanna
going
live
to
like
use
that,
use an account, and then it's just going to be like, "Can't pay for this." You know, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like lack of budgeting to the point where they're just like, "Beep."
Yeah, so can you walk us through that? Do you actually have like separate accounts? Like, do you like divvy up your money before you even get to spending it? Like, does
How
it go
many?
to
No.
stocks, or you just know
I
like
pretty
this
much
is my limit?
Well, once I started to kind of build up my checking account, I got it up to around $5,000, and then still to this day, I just keep it at around $5,000. If I start to see that climb up pretty high, I look at what I can do with the extra money as far as investments go.
See, that's smart.
And then if I dip down too low, I rein it in. I stop eating out so much.
I do the same thing, but it's the credit card account that's $5,000, not the checking.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I've really never used credit aside from like buying a house. I do have a credit card. I have like my car insurance automatically goes onto the credit card, and then it automatically pays itself off every month. So, I mean, I'm building credit without really doing anything. And then really that credit card's just there for emergencies.
Yeah.
So how old, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you first purchased your house? Because I know like a lot of military members, we buy, we come back from deployment, it's like, oh, time to get that brand new Mercedes AMG, or time to get that new BMW. When you have guys like yourself who are like, you know what, I'll drive this Honda Civic or whatever, and instead purchase a house. What was kind of your mindset at the time?
So yeah, I've talked to a lot of guys that kind of fell into that trap, spending everything on, a nice brand new car. I started out, I've always driven really cheap cars. I drive a $3,000 Lexus. So in the meantime, trying to save money by not having a car payment and all that, I was able to get saved up for a down payment, which I think I put maybe about $12,000 down. With a VA loan, you don't even have to put anything down. I mean, I put that money down anyway, and it actually saved me a little bit in fees. So that was, I actually got kind of lucky, but I kind of timed it at the same time. I bought my house in 2013, and I just sold it at the end of last year. I want to say I bought my house at 162 and sold it at 295. So
Wow.
Nice little
It's a really
profit.
good
Yeah.
net. Yeah.
So plans, are you going to continue to reinvest that into real estate, or what's kind of your your game plan going into that?
So my game plan is I still have about 6.5 years left in the military, and the military really is a stable source of income, and I have retirement to look forward to when I hit my 20. So for all that income that I made off of the all my proceeds from the house, I really want to put that into some riskier, more speculative investments and really focus on growth. I feel like I can take that risk. I am single. I don't have a family, so.
But you're taking like major calculated risk.
Yeah, I've actually been paying attention to the markets now for several years.
That's what I was getting at. Is you study this stuff. This isn't a matter of him just being like, oh, I'm gonna get into risky investments. This is. I remember him talking about this years ago and sitting in like a dark room, just waiting, like watching stocks and just waiting to like trade. No joke. He was sitting in there for like hours.
I did. I actively day traded for about 2 years.
I was almost a millionaire when I got out of the military. I had about 10 grand and I put it into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right when it was about to go up. I got over 100 grand and then now I'm back down to about 10. So.
Oh, man.
But I was doing pretty good for a while. That was when I was traveling in the van, so I wasn't really worrying about money at all.
Yeah.
Solid.
Unfortunate.
See, and that's for you guys listening. He brought up several good points that you guys really should start thinking about. You will always find a way. If you allocate funds for savings, for investment, and you only have 50% of your income left over, you'll find a way to make it work. It's going to suck, but if you start putting your mind into it now, like, okay, if I get promoted to E5, I'm still going to live like an E4. If you start having that mindset and start saying, okay, all this extra from this promotion or from this bonus, from whatever, I'm just going to put into savings. I'm going to put into stocks. I'm going to put into a house. Those are the kinds of things that are going to make you successful in the long term and allow you to take riskier chances later down the road that could pay off. Now, it's not guaranteed, but like Jar was saying, Ryan puts a lot of time and effort into studying this, into doing his research and making sure it's a calculated risk. The last thing we're trying to advocate here is you think that you're, the next Wolf of Wall Street and you start trying to day trade, or you think this is limitless and you're like, oh, I know the stock market, I know how it works, and you end up losing everything. That's not what we're getting at. Take risk, but be calculated and strategic in them. Make sure you have a plan. When I was getting out of the military, I moved from Virginia to California. And I'm not going to lie to you. First thing I thought was like, oh, I'm going back to California. You know what? I'm getting a place right on the beach, because I ended up getting a pretty good job that paid me well enough to live on the beach. But then I thought about it. I'm like, well, I can live in Santa Monica and get, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, maybe 600 to 900 square foot apartment and pay like $3,700 a month. Or I can be a lot smarter and still have money left over for starting businesses, for investing in stocks. And that's exactly what I did. The place I live in now, I'm only paying $750 a month, which some of you guys listening who maybe live in the Midwest or somewhere else are like, oh, that's expensive. For being in California, especially Los Angeles, I mean, $750 a month is absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's almost unheard of.
Yeah, I live well below my means. I rent a room, I have a few roommates, and I try and have as much money left over. That way I can spend it on this podcast, spend it on investing in clothing companies, different things like that. Now, I haven't been smart enough to put myself into a position like Ryan where I purchased my first home, but that's definitely the next thing that I'm looking at long term. But
real estate's great, man. I'll tell you right now, I'm selling the house. I'm selling the house right now, and I'm working with a really good friend of ours who happens to be our realtor as well. And looking at the numbers, it just makes me so happy, because we've owned this house for 2 years or so, and we're already $100K above what we paid as far as comps. So when we actually sell, I mean, it's going to fall on however much somebody's going to pay for it, but ultimately we're going to end up making money on it, and that's the ultimate goal.
Oh, absolutely. And if you think about it, there's more and more people, being born every day. So land, gold, things like these, they're finite resources. Now,
finite.
There's certain times, thank you, finite. Okay. There's going to be certain times where you don't want to get into those markets, but that comes down to doing your research. But yeah, definitely real estate is one of those things that has been tried and true for hundreds of years. If you look, a lot of very wealthy individuals get into the real estate game because they can either decide to sell it years later and make a huge profit, or they can continue to collect rent. So it really just comes down to your goals and what you want to do. But real estate, in my opinion, and I'm sure Ryan can speak on it,
I totally agree,
is a huge thing to get into.
That is your number one place to start.
So how's it work with owning a house in the military? Because you change duty stations, you leave your house behind, you rent it out, or?
There are a lot of people that will get orders right after they close on their house.
I feel like that's awful.
Yeah. I mean, you have options. You can look at the type of loan that you're going to get. Mm-hmm. The VA actually has a 5-1 arm that is different from like an arm, a conventional arm that you would get.
Can you kind of break that down? Because I'll be completely honest, I'm not too savvy on
My
that.
arm's maybe 3 feet.
In the military, you're moving around constantly. You could get an assignment out of the blue. Here you have this house. An arm is an adjustable rate mortgage. You get a lower interest rate than the 30-year fixed. For the first 5 years, that interest rate is locked in, so you could build up equity, if you wanted to. And what's special about the VA arm is after that 5-year period, it can only adjust 1% per year for a maximum of like 5 years.
So you're only looking at 5% or 5% than your initial.
That's the max.
Interest rate.
But the thing is, that's later on. Like after you've got equity built up into your place, your interest is going to be lower because your principal is going to be paid down more. So for somebody that could have to get up and move at any given time, if you have to sell your place, well, you've actually built up equity in your place. And when you go to sell it, you're actually going to make money. You go with the 30-year fixed. If you look at your principal and your interest, you're barely even chipping away at your principal. You're paying so much interest.
Right, you pay interest first.
Are interest rates in an arm usually lower than a fixed?
Yeah, they're usually about 0.5% lower.
Okay.
And that's
money.
actually a pretty good chunk of money.
Especially
I
at the
only owned
prices.
my place for 5 years, but I think in that time I probably saved about $6,000 maybe just
Nice.
from going with the arm.
And I'm sure that makes a huge difference too as you get into more and more expensive homes. You got yours at a very good price, and I'm sure if you started getting into homes that are in the $400,000-$500,000 range,
Even 1/4% makes a huge difference,
So-
like in a payment.
Yeah, arms definitely, they have a really bad stigma left over from the housing crash.
Right, yeah, that was the whole big thing.
Because when those mortgage rates adjusted, everyone had been making the minimum payment, and then when their rates adjusted, they went up like I don't know how many percentage points, but
significant.
quite a bit.
That's one of the reasons why we wanted to talk to you today was you bringing that perspective. It doesn't matter if you're in, if you're not in, you can start working towards these goals now. You can start thinking about purchasing a home. And like Ryan said, him being in the military allows him to continue to live a lifestyle that he's comfortable with, but it also affords him the opportunity to purchase a home, to go out, spend time with loved ones, have different experiences, but it's you putting in the time, doing the research, and if you don't know the answers to things, asking those questions and finding the right people to talk to, because I'm sure before you got into real estate and housing, you had no idea, and you had to go out there and find a mentor, find someone you were comfortable with and trusted.
It was scary. There's so many. The real estate goes pretty deep. There's really a lot to it. It was a huge learning curve, but I'm so glad that I took that leap and learned.
Yeah. Before we end the show, I just wanted to go ahead and see if there's one thing that you wanted to leave the listeners with, whether it's finance, whether it's, leadership. What is one thing that you think has continued to allow you to be successful in your future?
I always focused on what works for me. Everybody is completely different, and you can only emulate someone else so much. You know deep down what's right for you. Come up with your plan, establish some good habits, and just chip away at it day by day and jump on opportunities when they pop up.
I like that. Jumping on opportunities, because I've had individuals kind of criticize how my decision making goes, like that process that I take.
Like jet skis?
Like jet skis.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes it works out good and sometimes it doesn't. That jet ski thing is a perfect example. For me, it was a very bad investment.
I bet every single person who was present when you bought that jet ski was like, great choice.
Yeah,
We are going to love these.
It was fun while it lasted, but I will say it didn't last long enough to pay off. So it's something that I took a loss on, but it was worth it for me, I suppose. I can't hate on him that much.
I'm looking to make that mistake now.
Yeah, I think you should, because it's going to help further my plans in the future.
Does it come with a toy hauler? I'll need something to pull the jet ski around with.
You're not
it
going to
comes
throw
with
a jet
bungee
ski.
cord, so you could just throw it on the roof of your Jetta.
Exactly.
No worries. Yeah.
I'd like to see a jet ski and a toy hauler and somebody back that down a
put
boat ramp and then just throw the jet ski out into the water.
I'm going to put it on the van. See, we ran on the roof of the van. I got a rack now. It's going to be real nice.
Solid. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. Ryan, big thank you to you for taking the time to come out here, especially on your vacation. Thank you for giving us your insight and sharing that, hey, guess what? We've all been through similar situations, but how we react to them and how we plan for them is completely different, and that's okay. Dan, Gerard, thank you guys for coming in. Thanks for listening to The Unwavering. Please rate and comment on Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star and a great comment, and we may just read it on a future episode. Also, follow us on social platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to check back with us next week.